Welcome to the Urban Pitch Podcast. Today we have pro soccer player Yael Averbuch. Welcome.
Thank you.
How did I do on pronouncing your name, by the way?
That was really good. I'm
What?
impressed.
You
I've
were?
gotten some very bad pronunciations before. That was like up there with one of the best.
Really good. I'm not gonna lie. My teacher was you actually.
Oh, well, that's good. Oh yeah, the YouTube.
I did. I watched the
Okay.
YouTube.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
why I made it.
I watched the YouTube video and I practiced quite a bit,
Yeah.
and then so I made sure that the pronunciation
It
was
paid
on
off.
point. Yeah.
That's good.
So in case you were wondering, I'm not Jewish.
I was wondering that.
Okay.
But
But I play on a team right here. I don't know if you can see it right here.
Shalom Tigers.
Shalom Tigers. I wore this
Nice.
jacket specifically
Yeah,
for you.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I don't know why it's a Korean team, but our team name is called Shalom Tigers.
It's good to mix the cultures.
Yeah. So anyhow, So people have trouble pronouncing your name though, right?
Yeah, I get a lot of different attempts, and
Mhm.
usually if someone's like reading a list and stumbling on the name, I'm just like me.
Mhm.
so
So then, how do they pronounce your name, like your first name?
Yael,
Mhm.
Yael, Yael,
Yeah,
all kinds of
yeah.
things. So it's actually, I think, once you actually look at it and hear that it's two syllables,
Yeah.
Yael,
It
it's
becomes
not
easy.
complicated at
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
But when they see it, I think it just throws them off.
Yeah, me too. Well, speaking of Yale, don't you have the? Do you still have the? You still have the NCAA record for the fastest goal?
You know, it's funny timing
Uh-huh.
because someone actually just beat it.
Are you serious?
somebody-
They
so-
beat that record.
Yeah, so
Wow.
my record was that I scored in 4 seconds.
Right.
And a female college player recently scored in 3 seconds.
Okay.
I saw the video. A lot of people tweeted it to me.
Wow,
I was
okay.
a little mad because
Yeah.
I can't really go back and try to beat her again.
Yeah.
So, but hers is pretty sick. I think I didn't drive the ball enough.
Mhm.
Mine's more lofted, so that's why I
Okay.
got 4 seconds.
So then, okay. So how did you score? In 4 seconds in a college game?
Yeah, so actually the game before, my
Mhm.
assistant coach of my team was yelling at me before the game, shoot it. And I
Okay.
was like, be quiet. I know I'm a midfielder. I need to shoot in the game.
Yeah.
Like, stop talking to me. And then at halftime, he was saying, no, the goalkeeper was way off our line. Shoot it from the
Okay.
kickoff. So I was like, oh, this could be embarrassing. But
Okay.
the next game, I looked up and I saw she was a little bit off her line.
All right.
It was against Yale.
Mhm.
So I just shot it straight from the kickoff. And
Okay.
when it left my foot, I was kind of
Yeah.
like, wow, that was
Felt it.
not as bad as I thought it was
Uh-huh,
going to be.
right.
And then it sailed in over her head. So
Because so then like your teammate just tapped it right to you and then you just took a
no
you blasted
one touched it.
No one
actually.
touched it.
Yeah, no one touched it. Which that's
know
why
what?
I'm like,
I'm
how
not
did
even-
someone beat that?
I know. Well, you know what? I'm kind of okay. You're right because the first touch has to be forward,
Yeah.
right? But no one says it has to touch it first
Yeah.
before it goes in,
And
right?
I
It's a direct.
I
right?
think it's direct, but
Yeah.
even so, she might
Might
have
have
like
touched it.
touched a little.
Even if it
so,
wasn't.
But
I think it is
it's
direct.
Yeah.
Well, you better know. You're a pro.
Well, I don't usually go for that kind of
I
shot
know, right?
in the beginning. And
Yeah.
actually now I play center back, so
Mhm.
it's not even near
Okay.
that.
So how does that happen against Yale? Shouldn't they be smarter than that? Like, you know?
I mean, I guess maybe she was focusing on her studies and her
Mm.
things she had for a test the next day.
Right,
or something. I
yeah.
don't know.
Soccer might have been like number 2,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Right. So then you played for UNC though, right?
Yes.
Okay. How was that?
That was awesome. That was my dream ever since I was really young
Okay.
to play for the legendary Anson Dorrance.
Uh-huh.
So it was great, and it was, I did what everyone says not to do. I went to
Mhm.
college just for the soccer program,
Okay.
but I ended up loving it. I loved
Yeah.
Chapel Hill, where the school is based.
I see.
Everything about it. I
So
really
people
loved.
say don't go to a specific school just because you like that soccer program, but make sure
Yeah.
you enjoy everything else
they
about
always say
it.
that in the
Okay.
recruiting process. Like,
Yeah.
pick a school based on everything, not just the soccer. And I did. I picked just on the soccer.
But then you ended up loving
Oh,
it, right?
yeah.
Because
I
campus is
I
great.
lucked out.
Yeah.
The
What
campus-
what'd you like about it? Like I've been there and I visited. It's an
yeah.
awesome campus,
Yeah,
but so is Duke.
yeah, no, I feel like every college campus is beautiful.
Okay.
so-
Yeah, that's true.
But just the people I met, the experience,
Mhm.
the classes I took, living in Chapel Hill, everything about it, I really enjoyed. It was
Right.
nice too. The winters weren't as bad as New Jersey, so
Yeah,
I loved everything about it.
Okay. Well, you probably didn't know this, but I played at UCLA for 4 years. Yeah.
No, I didn't know.
Well, not for the team, but
Yeah.
just, like on campus. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
like during classes. You know what I mean? Like.
Okay, that's a little misleading. The way you said that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, are you looking down on my soccer career?
No, I just didn't. I didn't know what to make of it.
No,
when
it
you
was
said
very
that, you
competitive
said-
IMs. All right, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. And then I was
I
able
believe
to parlay that into a very successful Saturday amateur career as
Oh,
well. Yeah,
that's
which I
impressive.
still
Yeah.
try to play once.
Yeah,
in
no, that's
a
good.
while. So how did you get started? Like, into soccer? You started at a young age, right?
Yeah, well, I started when I was 7, which I guess nowadays that's like old.
It is kind of
Yeah.
late. Yeah.
My best friend in school at the time played on a team, and she asked me if I'd come watch her game. And actually that day they needed extra players,
Okay.
but I was really, really shy, and they asked me to play, and I was like, no, I don't know anything
Okay.
about this sport. but then it looked like fun. So my dad actually signed me up for the next season, and I started playing them.
This was for, you said school? She was playing for school, or she was
No,
playing
it's just
for a
like
team?
the local rec league in New Jersey where I grew up. It was I played for the Orange team. That was my first team, the Orange Bullets.
Okay. Shout out to the Orange Bullets.
Yeah,
Are they still
Orange
around,
Bullets.
by the way?
I don't know if any team is called the Orange Bullets anymore. They might have like retired the team.
Yeah, they make it more like the Euro-centric type names
Yeah.
now, right? Like FC, whatever.
FC Orange Bullets. I don't know.
So then you went from that to what, like high school, and then, you know?
Yeah, actually, I played on a boys team
Mhm.
a couple years after I started playing because I think I became really serious about it.
Yeah, I think
Like-
I think that's a common story for like high-level elite female players like today,
Yeah.
right? Like they started back then, it wasn't as formulated, right? It wasn't as structured, so they all
Yeah.
started kind of playing against the guys,
Yeah, and
right?
I think it's different today. Like you said,
Mhm.
I think that a lot of people in kind of my age range played on a boys team at
Yeah.
some point. And I was the only girl on the boys team, which
Okay.
it was around middle school years, so it was really, really awkward socially.
Mhm.
But a lot of people today now have very elite club teams for girls,
Right.
so they don't do that as
ECNL
much.
and yeah. Okay.
Which is wonderful, and also though you miss out on a little bit of the very
Oh.
awkward social part. Playing on a boys team.
Yeah. Is that something that you think they can find value in going through some awkward moments still?
Well, I don't know about the awkward moments.
Yeah.
I could have done without those, but I think
Okay.
being uncomfortable and playing in a situation that was a little bit above my level.
Okay.
At my best, I was going to be average on the team,
Okay.
which is what I wanted. I wanted a challenge. I think there's something to be said for that, that challenging environment, whether it's playing with boys, older girls, just showing up and guest playing for teams.
Yeah.
The more environments you can find yourself in as a player, I think the better. So I definitely had plenty of those in very, very uncomfortable situations.
Okay. And then, so how did you? Because I've looked into your, I did a little research and all that, So, and you made like every, national team starting from, what was it, like what was it?
Yeah, I think the first
Like
was like
every year.
U14,
Yeah.
then U16.
So you got a late start. Like, how does one go from, playing on her friend's team to making the national, the U14 team or?
Yeah, I think, when I was growing up playing and where I was playing, I didn't feel like I got a late start, really. And from the time, so when I was about 9, I became really serious. I know that sounds ridiculous because I was pretty young. But when I was 9, I decided I wanted to be a professional soccer player. And then shortly after that is when I, with the help of my parents, found this boys team to play on.
Right.
And from that point, I was doing whatever the best of the best was in the area that was offered. So whether it was extra training sessions, individual coaches, training on my own, practicing the things they showed me, all of that I really started to do a lot of. So by the time I was, 12, 13, 14, I was competing with some of the best in my area, and then we got to do the U14 national team camp, which was pretty fun.
Okay, and how was that experience like? How is it competing against, such a high level, like an elite level as a kid? Is there a lot of pressure, like how's that? I have no idea.
Yeah.
My pressure at it was like trying to make the AYSL All-Star team, you know what I mean? So like,
Hey, that's pressure.
Yeah, that is
That's
pressure.
pressure.
So let me know how that is, right?
Yeah, I think for me, I was very, very serious. Well, I still am. And so the big thing for me was the higher level I got to, I was curious like who else was out there who was equally as serious, because I knew in my town that I was one of the most serious, one of the better players. That's why I played on the boys team. And then when I tried out for the state team, I was thinking, is there some girl from somewhere else in New Jersey who's just so much better than me? And the same thing, each level I went up, I kind of was thinking like, okay, am I going to meet someone from California who is just like so much better than me? I'll never be that good. So at each point I remember thinking, like being a little nervous to see what was out there, and then realizing like there were definitely players who had certain strengths that I didn't have, and then there were things that I could do that other players couldn't do. So I got a feel for what was out there and what was expected at that age group in the country.
So what were some of the things that you were good at? Like, you know how you said you had some strengths that other girls couldn't do? What were some of your strengths that you recognized early on?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of the pieces of the game.
Your height?
Actually, I wasn't that tall until
You
like
weren't.
later in high school. Yeah.
So I'm saying we're all about the same height. You're pretty tall,
no,
right?
I'm pretty tall. I'm
Yeah.
like 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
No, I was until middle of high school. I wasn't that tall. I was on the taller side, but that was never like I wasn't so big. And I was actually like really, really skinny. It was
So you're like
awkward.
a late bloomer.
Yeah, a little bit.
So
but
it wasn't like your size where you were the dominant girl out there. Okay.
And actually, from playing with boys, one of my weaknesses was the physical part of the game, because I pretty much learned how to play the game with no physical contact and not using speed or strength or anything, because I couldn't compete with them on that. So I would play really quickly. I would see the game quickly and kind of release the ball very quickly, which was one of my strengths. And I think all the things that you can control as a player with the ball at your feet, all the technical aspects of the game, I was and I still am very two-footed. striking the ball, first touch, all of that have been my strengths over the years because that's the part of the game that you can really control as a player. And I would spend hours and hours, and I still do, just with the ball, kicking off a wall, juggling, dribbling.
So was it mostly kind of you on your own? Because nowadays there's like tons of club coaches out there and teams and so many different levels and all that. You know what I mean? Were you involved in like getting like private coaching or anything like that?
Yeah, at first I had some really good mentors, local coaches who kind of took an interest because I was so serious, and they would work with me. So I was very fortunate to have that. But I also took what they showed me back home with me, and like if they showed me something I couldn't do, I would make sure I didn't show up again at the next session before I could do it. So I had a little bit of the drive and spent a lot of time on my own, but I definitely had the support of people showing me what to practice on my own.
Right, okay. And so you've played on the U.S. Women's National Team for quite a few years now, right?
Yeah. So I have 26 caps. Unfortunately, I haven't been part of the team in these most recent years, but I definitely got a fair share of opportunities and was part of the team for 6-7 years on and off. Just kind of always a bubble player though, which was pretty hard.
Are you still? Is that still a goal of yours?
It's still a goal of mine. I'm 29 now though, so I don't know if that's a possibility, but that's always a goal of mine. Now, having played there at all, it's always the level's always in my mind is where I want to be. So can't get rid of that. Sure.
And right now you still play pro, obviously in the U.S., right? You play for FC Kansas City.
Yep.
Right. How's your season this year, and the overall dynamic?
Yeah, I love playing for Kansas City. Of all my professional experiences, I would probably say it's been the best one.
Really?
Now it's my 7th professional season that just passed. So we actually, which is saying a lot because we actually didn't do well as a team this year. We had a younger team, a bunch of players retired. We had a couple pregnancies.
Yeah. Right. Shout out to Sydney LaRue.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you, Sydney LaRue and Amy Rodriguez for that.
Right.
But yeah, so we had a young team and a lot of new pieces, and we were pretty average, I would say, in terms of results. We had a whole a lot of ups and downs.
Right.
But I really appreciate the coach there, Vlatko Andonovski, and I think like for me the environment he creates and the training sessions stuff are so good there that we all still really enjoyed the season, even though we're at home now and the playoffs are going to be going on. So.
Right. So then, and Heather O'Reilly, right? She's a teammate, right?
Yes.
She just retired though, right?
She just retired from the national team.
Oh, from the national team. Okay.
She wants to make sure that that's very clear.
Okay, so let's make sure.
Yes,
so Heather O'Reilly
is still playing soccer.
She's still playing soccer, just not on the national team. Okay. And then usually, how does that work? Where is it usually kind of a voluntary thing where based on like time constraints and whatnot, you get older or whatnot, you know what I mean? How's that work? Or is it something that's kind of like a mutual thing with the team coming down?
I think it can work in a variety of ways depending on the player. Heather is definitely not afraid of a challenge, and with all the new players coming in, she was still fighting for her spot, and I think she just felt that this is good timing for her personally. The next major tournament is 4 years away, so for her to push that hard and that much for another
the next
4
4
year
years
cycle, I think was not really, she's had a wonderful career. I think it was like enough for her in terms of that. But yeah, I think depending on the player, it can happen in a variety of ways.
Right. So, and you know how you said earlier how you've played in a lot of different pro teams and countries, right? And I think that's kind of typical, right? Especially for like if as a female professional soccer player, as a U.S. female soccer player, right? And you really want to play and continue to play at that elite high level, you have to, like, if you look at most of their careers, right, they've all been all over the place, right? It's not like, it's unheard of to kind of be like 6 years old. It just doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, that's tough. I think that, especially for those of us who have been playing for a while, there was a gap between the last league, the WPS, and this current league, the NWSL, where the last league folded.
Right.
And we had a year where
we didn't have basically,
a league.
Right.
So a lot of players went overseas in that time, including myself. I played in Russia for a month, which is a whole other story. Right. It was a very bad experience.
Okay.
And then I played in Sweden for a year and a half, which was wonderful.
Okay. Is it based on? It sounds to me like without knowing the context, it sounds like weather might be a part of it. Cause Sweden and culture, or what was it?
Well, weather in Sweden was actually pretty bad too.
Okay.
But just long story. But basically, Sweden is a lovely place to live. Like everyone's so friendly, and it was a very easy place to be. In Russia, there were a bunch of political situations with the team that I went to play for going on. So I think that affected my experience. It was just a very very jarring experience. And I realized that I need to actually look into where I'm going and not just be offered a contract and be like,
Sure.
okay, I'm on the plane.
Right. So it was 1 year in both countries?
Yeah. Well, no, I spent 1 month in Russia. Then
Oh,
I came
1
home,
month. Okay,
and
that
then
was enough
I
to figure it
decompressed
out.
at home for a little, and then I
Okay.
went to Sweden for a year. And a half.
I see.
So yeah, definitely a good experience in Sweden after that.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of players. So the players who are part of both leagues obviously had that gap year and had to go find playing opportunities. And then I would say that there's a lot of turmoil in the league, and there was in the last league between teams folding, which thankfully that hasn't happened in this league. And
it's it's a lot more stable now,
this
right?
league is looking really good. They're expansion teams, but really, it's hard as a professional player when you put so much into it, and sometimes, financially and for other reasons, it's not fulfilling. So I think players skip around a lot. They are always looking for a better opportunity where maybe they
bigger, better deal, right?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you
well,
have to survive,
I don't know
right?
if a bigger deal, but
better deal.
Better deal, maybe.
Right. So it's like with women's soccer and like the leagues, for example, like WPS, right? They had, was it uncapped salaries? It wasn't uncapped, was it? I know it was extremely high.
There was a salary cap. I
There was
wouldn't
a
say
team salary. There was
high.
there was a team salary cap.
Yeah, there was a team salary cap.
Were there individual player salary caps as well? There probably were, but then they had like these.
Think to make the team salary cap, you had like, I think you have to kind of cap the individuals. I know that the national team players in that league were being paid by the league, so there were some stipulations on a minimum and maybe a maximum for national team players, and then for everyone else. But yeah, I would say the salary cap in that league wasn't anything huge.
Yeah, the salary cap itself wasn't high. It's just in comparison to like the strict controls that they have in place with NWSL now. If in comparison, like it's extremely high, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now that seems like luxury living.
Exactly.
But
overall, you're right. It wasn't like obscene, or they're not getting NBA salaries and right.
Not anything like that.
Exactly.
But definitely now they're being a lot more careful to make sure that the finances are kept very, very strict and in check, which is. It's tough for us as players, but I think we see that to make it work, we have to do that. So
yeah, because one of the high-profile teams for WPS, right, was like the Los Angeles Soul, right, and they had star players on there like Marta and a few others, right, that were getting relatively high salaries in comparison to the rest of the league, right, and I think a lot of people look as that as an example of one of the reasons why that team folded and the league eventually folded, right.
Yeah, I think there were just a number of teams that didn't have the long-term picture. I don't know exactly what happened with LA, but that was the first team to fold. And I remember that kind of shook the league because then everyone realized, like, oh, if we don't do this right, it might not be here. And then a couple other teams folded over the next couple of years. And it was just a scary situation as a player to never know if your team was going to exist.
Yeah. I mean, most people think like the Los Angeles Soul, the salary and all that, financial issues is the reason why I folded. I think personally it's because you guys beat them in the finals and they were devastated. They're like, oh, forget it.
They're like, this team beat us? Okay, we got
right. Yeah, you guys beat them 1-0 in the finals, right? Yeah, in the championship, right?
Yeah, I think actually Heather might have scored the goal.
Okay. I'll have to look into the highlights.
Yeah, I forget who scored the goal. But yeah, that was funny. Basically, we were not very good all season, and we had like 5 different
huge
coaches.
underdog coming into the game.
And we had in the playoffs, we had never beaten DC in the whole season, and we had them in the first round of the playoffs. And the way the playoffs worked is that if you win, so I think it was the 5th and 4th team play
against each other.
The winner plays the 3rd, the winner plays the 2nd, who plays the 1st, something like that. Maybe I started one.
Right, but it's like you have to win 3 games.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the last team to get into the playoff has to win to make it up to the first team. So we played DC, who we had never beaten, and beat them. Then we traveled straight to St. Louis, who we had never beaten. Beat them. So meanwhile, we had all packed like a little carry-on bag. We didn't even have stuff to go. Then fly out to LA.
That's not very. I don't think as a coach they would appreciate that, right? Seeing everyone just ready to play one game and go home, right?
We hadn't beat any of these teams.
You guys are being realistic, right? Okay, I know.
Yeah, we're just trying to be,
Yeah, trying to save, time and effort, right?
So then we were out in LA, and we had never beat them either, and they were like you said, like so stacked.
They were the favorites, right? Yeah, and then. I'm sure like they're supposed to be like the darlings of the league too.
Oh yeah, they were like definitely gonna win.
Yeah.
But they got a red card early in the game, and then we scored, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're gonna win this one too.
Right.
And I remember the funniest thing was that they had their locker room already covered in plastic with champagne.
Oh my gosh.
And we didn't bring champagne. We were like, there's no way.
You guys were scrambling to buy clothes in the mall the day before, right?
We were like buying underwear in the mall.
Right.
So we actually took their champagne for our celebration.
Oh wow.
I think they
allowed it.
Okay,
yeah, here you go. Yeah.
So so that was actually hilarious.
Yeah. So how was the celebration in the locker room?
It was pretty funny. It was also funny because that was when we found out Christy Rampone was pregnant again because she wouldn't drink the champagne with us.
Ah, that was the tell, huh?
Yeah. So a lot going on in that locker room.
So what do you what's your thoughts on the whole, speaking of like salary and all that, there's the whole equal pay thing, and I've kind of looked into it, and because I'm the kind of guy that likes to just instead of kind of peripherally researching, I kind of do in-depth stuff, and I like, and I enjoy reading and things like that, and I've tried to figure out the real heart of the situation with the salary disparity and equal pay, and it's not that easy to figure out,
Yeah, and I think,
and then like one big part of it is the fact that like you were talking about earlier, how the U.S. women's national team, how there's like 4 years away, right? Like depending on the year, the salary fluctuates like crazy, right? So you can't really compare year to year with men's and women's either, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's like you said, it's kind of apples and oranges.
Right.
I think if you don't read into it, it's a little misleading. I'll be honest, because I think here's the main difference in the salary structure. Okay. The MLS, or if men play abroad, that is their primary salary for the year. And then if they get called up to the national team, they get an appearance bonus, essentially, or they get paid for the time they're there. The women's structure is different, in part because there hasn't been a strong league for women. So
there hasn't been a stable league to be able to provide that kind of minimum guaranteed salary kind of thing, right?
So U.S. Soccer has made sure that those athletes who are going to be competing on the world stage can be full-time athletes, and they have paid
they're subsidizing their income, right? Exactly. They're not even subsidizing; they're paying directly for their income, right?
Those athletes are under contract with U.S. Soccer,
right?
And that contract includes their club salary,
right? So if you're on, like for example, if you're playing in NWSL and you're on the U.S. Women's National Team, your salary that you're making for your club is paid directly by the U.S. Women's National Team,
which is wonderful for our league because it takes off a huge financial burden from the clubs who otherwise would need to pay those star players, and that's a lot of money.
Okay.
So. Yes, the bonus. So because of that, the bonus structure and everything else, the win bonuses.
It's hard to compare the two, right? It's hard to compare, right?
Different. Yeah, they're different, and on paper they look very different, but it's just a different world. So I think I haven't looked that closely into the legal argument and stuff. I think that there are obviously discrepancies, and the women's team, because of their success, I think should be absolutely getting equal marketing, like a lot of things need to step up in U.S. Soccer. But I also think it can be misleading if you just look at the stats on bonuses and don't take into account the whole picture.
Right. So what do you think about, because it's kind of like, I definitely think it needs to be looked into properly, and there needs to be reward. They need to be rewarded properly, right? Yeah. So and that's to be determined if it's the case or it's not. But one thing that I've also noticed, and you're obviously you know it, you live it, so you know much better than I do. But like the average salary for an NWSL player is extremely low, but that's not really in the limelight. That's not really discussed either. I feel like that's kind of shoved under the side, and then the U.S. Women's National Team salary disparity between the men's national team salary is taking all of the attention, but they're actually paid pretty okay, actually well compared to the rest of their colleagues, right?
And I think that's the kind of the irony when we look at the equal pay argument. Sometimes as players in the league, we're saying, well, can we get in there on this argument? Because it's not very equal with us. Yeah, I think it's tough. I think we all see it as players. We want the league to survive first and foremost. So we don't want to get paid more at the expense of the league.
Right.
But at the same time, like you said, there's a huge gap, and we have players on our team making $7,000 for the year.
That's
and
tough.
Yeah, we have an off season, but it's hard to get a part-time job in the off season that's going to make up the difference to allow you to live a good, stable life. So, there has to be room for improvement there, and I think the first thing that can happen is providing a more quality experience. So if you're going to get paid $7,000, you better love what you're doing and feel like you're going to grow and learn and be given opportunities. Maybe even to take extra classes or continue your education, things like that. I think
you're saying if the club can help that kind of area, okay,
or even through U.S. Soccer. So actually, one major victory we had this year, and I'm working on some of this stuff behind the scenes because I think it's so important as an older player to kind of push it forward. We actually got U.S. Soccer is offering coaching courses like the regular F license, E license to the NWSL players. And they did it in market for us, and they did it free of charge. So that's one way that we can start to get our coaching courses, and players can start to continue their education without having to support themselves financially to do that.
Right. That's that'd be great. Not too long ago, we had a conversation with like Kalen Carr. He does the MLS online things, and he was in LA. and he was filming for LAFC. And so they came by our place, our facility, and John Thorrington, right? He runs LAFC now, and those guys are both MLS veterans. So we had a brief conversation about how I was like, wow, it's good that the powers that be in MLS are like, taking care of their own, and the guys that were kind of the pioneers and were there during the rough times, in which I don't think they were getting paid millions or anything like that, right? They're allowing them and giving them opportunity to be part of what's happening now, right? So I thought that was really cool. Hopefully, maybe like on the NWSL side or the women's soccer side, they can kind of take that into consideration as well, right?
Yeah,
Is there? So. Yeah. Do you see that kind of opportunities from some of the older, people or the players?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's interesting because we have some players who retire and just want to get away.
Yeah, just want to take a breather, take a break.
Honest.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then I think hopefully the better the experience is, the more players will want to stick around, and that's our hope with the coaching courses, even in the coaching realm. But then there could be, we have people in our league who have studied business, marketing, things that could really be huge contributions if they stay involved. So that's the hope, is to keep people involved, even just part-time in addition to whatever else they're doing.
Right. So one thing, like, for example, in the other sports like NBA, I know the WNBA, there's a pretty good synergy between the men's and the women's side. And so there's, where they're able to leverage different things together, and then they kind of help each other out, right? And definitely the men's game, they have, a desire to help the WNBA game, right? FC Kansas City, are they connected to Kansas Sporting League at all? Or?
We're not connected to Sporting.
Okay.
There are some NWSL teams though who are connected to the MLS team, and that I think is a really good model. I think that's where our league eventually should be looking to go, and I think is looking to go, because it just makes sense. Why not share the facilities, share the marketing, some staff, and obviously as the NWSL we could really benefit from that. We actually had our home opener at Sporting Park, which is the men's stadium, which was awesome. But other than that, we have a good relationship, but not actually a business relationship.
I see. Interesting. Okay, so what about on the personal front? How's your boyfriend Aaron doing?
Yeah, he's good. He loves it out here. Every time I was like, "Oh, Aaron, I don't know anyone in LA." He's like, "Oh, it's great." So yeah, he's loving working at Fox Soccer.
He's drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
he loves it here.
He's in heaven here.
Yeah, he's a transplant as well then, right? Because he grew up in North Carolina.
So he grew up in North Carolina, in Chapel Hill, actually. So that's where I met him when I was down at school.
Shout out to Aaron West for Fox Soccer, right?
Yep. So yeah, he's an East Coast guy. Went to Davidson College in North Carolina, and then has been working on the East Coast pretty much. So he always said he wants to live in California for a little bit, but I didn't think that was actually going to happen.
Yeah. We met at we met through him, right? Yeah. Aaron and I both sat on a roundtable discussion with Influencer League for Adidas Mercury Center not too long ago, right? And he's hilarious, man.
Yeah, no, he's a funny guy. Yeah. He's loving his job now because he gets to basically watch, write about, and talk about soccer all day, which is like his dream world.
Right.
So
I actually follow him on his Instagram, and I see his soccer updates, and I follow him on that. But the funniest thing is his barbershop chronicles.
Oh,
I think it's hilarious, right? He's having
I
these.
do see those. I'm glad you think it's funny, because sometimes I'm like, I hope people think it's funny.
Oh, it is hilarious. So for those that you guys don't know, you guys follow, A West. You have to look it up, Aaron West. But he has this back and forth thing that he does with his barbershop all the time, where he's needing to get a haircut, right? And he's texting his barber, and his barber's not really responding in the appropriate manner or at the right time. It's hilarious, right?
Yeah, it is funny. I think he's actually going for a haircut tomorrow, so maybe there'll be an update on that.
Yeah, and he's always talking about how he has to cheat on his barber, right? Because he's not, he's not treating him correctly.
Somewhere else. I don't think to be fair, I don't think he has a secondary place, so he could blow his cover on that one.
Right. So the Techne, right? Techne. Am I pronouncing that right? Techne
I think
Futbol?
it's either Techne or Techne.
Okay, Techne or Techno. Well, how do you like it?
I say Techne.
Techno. All right, we'll call it Techno then.
It's a Greek word.
I saw that Techno, right? Okay, so then tell us what that's about.
Yeah, so basically, I do a lot of individual coaching with players and small groups to show those players the things that really inspired me when I was young. Like I said, the things I would do against the wall or just when it was me and the ball. And so I worked with them in person, but then I decided, okay, well, what if I could create a training program where people all over could follow it? And at first I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll make some PDF documents or something. And I was like, no one wants to print out PDF, but everyone has their phone when they go to train. So I've actually worked with a developer and made an app called Techne Futbol that takes players through a weekly technical session.
Okay, so then it's an app, right? You download. Is it free or?
Yeah. So No, a lot of people have been asking. It's not available in the App Store right now. It's just a web app.
Okay.
So basically, anyone can go to the web app. You
Okay.
can.
What's the website?
The website is technefutbol.com. So
Okay.
TECHNEFUTBOL.
Right, the old school FUTBOL. Techne Futbol.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And people try to download it from the App Store. You can't do that. Basically, if you sign up, it's subscription based. So you have to basically get a membership to the training program, and then you're sent your unique login to sign in through the website. Then functions like an app on your phone.
Okay, and then once you sign up, how many? So you said it's like a weekly training.
Yeah.
So are there like daily skills that you do, or how does that work?
So right now it's just the weekly session, and basically I designed it so that players, if you have nothing going on, you can do it.
You can do it every day.
Every day if you
Right.
want, or a lot of people have busy schedules.
Okay.
It's divided into 3 10-minute sessions or sections that you can, if you're just like, okay, I have 10 minutes to warm up before my practice, you could do it like that. And I actually, on Instagram though, we have a daily skill of the day.
Okay.
So people can actually send in themselves doing the skill of the day, and I feature them. So that's kind of a fun side piece, but that's not really part of the training program.
So the training is more skills-based focus?
Yeah, it's all technique-based skill training that really all you need is a ball, a wall, and sometimes like a couple cones. I actually call them markers because like I use water bottles, I use whatever I have.
Sure. How did you, so like if I'm looking into the training, how did you develop it? What's the brains behind it?
Yeah, so basically I've compiled all the things that I've done over the years and that I've been shown by coaches from all around the world. That was one really cool thing. As a kid, I was coached by people from Peru, Turkey, Argentina, like Holland, everywhere. So I basically compiled all these ideas and all the things I do, and I have mapped out a training session each week. I pretty much tried to map out what it would be for like a year, but it will continue. And everybody, whenever you start, you're doing the same session as everyone else who's doing the program. So it's not like it starts from week 1 and progresses. That's one cool thing. So if you started today, there's some pro players out there actually doing it. You know that you're doing the same session as them that week.
I see. So you just jump right in, you can get started.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have to have a certain base level of skills before you can, start?
It's pretty much usable by a very beginning player.
Okay.
All the way up to pro, and I've tried to design it. That's where I would say my expertise kind of comes in. I've tried to design something that a real beginner could do and still enjoy as well as a pro player. But obviously, if you see, I share some videos of the pro players doing it, and you could see how efficiently and quickly they're doing the skills. I'm assuming you'd be up there with the pros.
Right. Okay. And so is it you that's doing the drills and showing them how to do it?
I've done some of the demos.
Okay.
I've gotten some friends to do some as well. It was a lot of videoing and a lot of work.
Sure.
But also I wanted to show people that it's not just me. This is for everyone. So I have some guys, girls, young, old.
Do you have Aaron doing anything?
Aaron actually is
good.
in there doing
I want to see the one that he's on.
His right foot was a little bit of an issue because he's very left-footed.
Oh, he's left-footed.
But if you watch his left-footed demos, they're very good.
Okay, good to know. So then maybe you can reverse the video on the right
exactly.
foot, right?
That's
So
what I
that
need
no
to
one
do.
knows.
That's a good idea. I didn't think of that.
Right. So what do you think about the whole, like the Colin Kaepernick? Have you been following that at all, the news?
Yeah, I have.
Starting to bleed over a little bit into the soccer world, right?
Yeah, so Megan Rapinoe has kneeled for the national anthem, and it was really big news when she actually did that at a national team game wearing the crest.
Right.
So I'm going to be honest, I haven't read into it a lot. I'm a little behind on current events, and I need to be better about that. But I mean, I really do respect people taking a stand against something that they believe is not right in our country. I can't really speak to it more than that, to be honest, because I haven't read enough into it, and I haven't actually read if Megan Rapinoe. That's what I focused on most, because that's obviously my little soccer world. I haven't spoken to her about it personally or read if she's put out a personal statement about it.
She's a pretty outspoken gal, right?
She is.
So you know her personally?
Yeah, I know her personally. I know all those players personally, and I haven't talked to her about it. I'm sure she's getting bombarded. I think she said to somebody I know that she didn't realize it was going to blow up like this, which I have to believe. You have to know that's going to blow up.
Yeah, she's pretty high profile, and that's a very hot topic, right? That's
especially wearing the national team crest. I think that is a big statement. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm curious to see. My thought on it is I respect taking a stand, but it's like, what's the end game, kind of, or like what do you do? Do you do that forever? Because to be honest,
what's the next step, right?
Our country is far like we're going to need to make improvements, absolutely, but there's not going to be a solution at any point with an endpoint. So I'm curious what will happen, as it goes on.
I see. So what are you up to, now that the season's over, right? What are you doing? You're here in LA for a little bit, you said, right?
Yeah, so I'll be here in LA. Really, I do actually more training in the off season than I do in the season. Okay. I don't have to be rested for any games.
You have like a local trainer?
So I have Chris Gorez. Big shout out to him. He has been awesome and influential in my career. I've worked with him for the past couple off seasons. He's based in the DC area, but he's sending me a program. I actually just got it and printed it out yesterday. So I'll be doing his workouts still in the gym, and then really just hopefully getting a pickup crew together. And I love to play small-sided in the off-season and doing some work with the ball. But yeah, a lot of focus on the athletic side of the game in the off-season. That's where I really try to push myself, because it doesn't matter if I'm sore.
Right. Where do you get some games in, like pickup games? We had a girl, I don't know, Shauna Gordon. She plays for Sky Blue FC, right?
Yeah, if she's around, I gotta get in touch with her.
Yeah, and she comes to our facility, and that's how we first met. And she says, and one of the things what she was saying was really hard to get in good games off season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
she's all over the place.
Yeah,
You're trying to find it. What about for you?
I would say it's not a game like an 11-to-9 game for sure. But we in the DC area where I was living last off season, we had a group that was like 6v6, 7v7, sometimes even 9s. And we play in a small field, so there's a lot of touches. And we had a really high level group. So I'm gonna work with some people in the area and some of the players I know who are around. I'll have to get in touch with Shauna, but just to assemble our group, hopefully we can at least have 4v4.
So this is more of like a private closed session. Is it pros only, or what? It sounds to me like if I show up, I'm not gonna get a game.
We have to put you through a tryout first.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I feel like if I show up like, hey, and you're gonna be like, I feel like I'm not gonna get any touches.
It's actually funny. We were using the Nike training app to do our pickup group.
Yeah.
And we had it as a private group, so it was just the way we would all tell each other if we were coming or not.
Okay.
By accident, one time I made the game public.
Okay.
So we had a couple of people show up and like sketchily be looking out from their car and stuff, and then they left. They were like, I don't know.
You're right. It was a little too. Was it too intense?
I don't know what they saw that they didn't like. Maybe they saw girls playing and they want to play. I don't know. But we were like, okay, I guess not make it public again.
Oh wow, that's funny. So then, where do you get to get your touches in games? Is it mostly like at parks, or what do you do?
Yeah, I try. I'm living in Marina Del Rey, so I've basically been driving around looking for fields. There's an elementary school really close by that I've been just going to the last few days. But yeah, I need to find a good wall. That's my thing. So anyone knows of a wall.
It's all about finding a wall? Yeah, I know, because a lot of the training, right?
It's the best training partner.
Okay.
It's reliable. It will show up every day.
That's very true.
It doesn't mess up on sending it back to you. Right. So I do a lot of training using
Who would have thought it'd be so hard to find a wall in LA, huh?
Well, I'm sure there are some, but I can't use like a building. Like
you don't want to be bouncing off of like the guy's living room the entire time, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I have to be a little discretionary in the wall.
Right. Maybe those handball courts, or like the the parks.
I know. I need to find one where they let soccer players
show up and do it.
Like an outdoor racquetball court would be perfect.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So if anyone knows of one, please.
Yeah, let us know, right? So how about like futsal? Have you ever played futsal and street soccer?
So I have. I absolutely love it. I would say I've never played futsal with the right rules.
Okay.
So I'm a little
more the informal kind of, just like no line. Are you playing lines, or how are you doing it?
No, usually lines, but I would just play it like soccer with kick-ins.
Okay.
Love playing futsal. Love playing street soccer, and that's kind of, to be honest, we play on a field in the off season, but that's kind of what our pickup group is like. It's small-sided, very loose rules we play with, but just to get a lot of touches, and I think that's sometimes almost even more fun than the real game.
Right. Yeah. So you're definitely gonna have to come out once we have our facility in downtown LA.
I'll be there.
Yeah,
I'll be there every day.
Okay. We'll make it a private, maybe.
Private group. You have to close down the facility when
yeah, exactly. So what's next for you in your career? What are you hoping to do? I know you're working hard during the off season. What are you looking to do now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, like we said, it's always my goal to get another shot with the national team.
Okay.
Again, as an older player, I think they're going for a younger group, so that may not be possible. But for me, really, now it's about feeling the satisfaction of all the work I've put in over the years. And I found a place in Kansas City where I feel respected, and I feel like I can keep getting better, and feel good about what I'm doing. And I think, like anything, there's been struggles. It hasn't been a smooth road for me. I've had teams where I sat the bench. I was struggling to prove myself. And really at this point, I'm very up for working hard and continuing to improve and attack any of my weaknesses as a player, but I want to play and I want to be an important part of my team, and that's really what I want to feel. So I always tell people are like, how much longer are you going to play?
As long as you
I
can.
will not be able
Yeah.
to step away until I feel like I'm not getting better anymore.
Right.
So, or until I'm like, okay, I'm 45 and I need to have kids. So yeah, I think as of now, I'm really enjoying playing in Kansas City, and the training I do in the off season is really so that I can feel great on the field. I want to, maximize my physical potential so I feel good when I'm playing and be as impactful as I can for my team. So that's really what I'm going for.
I see. So it sounds like you're still heavily into it. Have you thought about like life after soccer at all? Have you
Yeah.
given some consideration?
Yeah, so basically what I'm developing with Techne, the app and the business in general, I'm hoping will carry me through until when I'm done playing, and hopefully for many years beyond that. I would want to have a family, I want to have kids. So I always said I wanted to have kids and keep playing. I don't know how that's going to work if I'm in Kansas City, so that may change. But I definitely want to have a family. I want to continue that business, and then I'm very interested in the development side of things. I don't want to coach a team per se, but I would love to eventually deal with the development structure on the women's side of the game.
Right. Okay. Maybe from not from a coaching perspective, but being able to help kind of
Yeah,
with
kind
the
of the
training.
overall system and the
Okay.
training and the expectations at each level. I don't know what it would entail, but that's my interest as opposed to actually coaching a group.
Right. Okay, great. So any last words or anything that you would like to talk about,
No last words. No, I appreciate you having the conversation. I'm excited to see the new facility when it opens.
All right,
So
awesome.
I'll be there.
Okay, for sure. Thank you for joining us on the Urban Pitch podcast, The Beautiful Game of Life.